Hey yo, Andrew Whipple here of Gamer's Guide to Life, and we're entering a Valley Without Wind today. Quite honestly, I've never played a game like this. Ostensibly, it looks as if Arcen Games married the Metroid and Castlevanias of yore with Terraria and Minecraft. And it might sound a bit overwhelming, but they've got a formula here that surprisingly works, but it's not without its problems. So the game takes place in the year 888. Where reality shattered because of a cataclysm. Windstorms cover the continent and all sorts of different time periods, as well as environments are jumbled up. You'll see Ice Age snowfields and deserts, swamps, forests, ocean shallows, all that kind of stuff next to each other, and it's perfectly normal. You're going to take on a role of a guy called a Glyph Bearer. They play sort of the role of the saviors of the world, and your job is to bring down the evil overlord who is ruling the continent and rescue the survivors, which is always important. By the way, listen to the music in this game. Instead of focusing on getting the crazy boss monsters and beating the game overall, A Valley Without Wind wants you to find materials and craft spells to make your experience easier and probably more enjoyable. You do this by going to random levels and literally exploring caves and other areas. It sounds like a complete pain, but Arcen Games did a hell of a job on the map system. It's going to take a little while to be able to read it actively, but once you figure it out and know what all the colors and lines mean, you'll be navigating like a champ. Picking up random materials is more fun than you think. Let's say you have the Energy Orb spell, and you want to get it to Tier 2. Well, all you have to do is open your big honkin' encyclopedia, I know, and it'll tell you what you need and where to find it. This forces players to go to different areas if they want their spells to get any better. And trust me when I say that you're going to need that kind of power. As you continue to complete missions, you slowly increase the tier of the continent you're on. All that means is that the monsters are tougher, you gain extra shielding from attacks, and some new unlockables and materials open up to you. If you don't want to increase the tier of the continent yet, then you can always go around and complete secret missions. You can find these just by exploring, and they'll still net you a reward without having to worry about that tier increase. It's a lot to take in, I know, but that's the nature of this kind of game. When you're not grabbing materials for spells, you can get things to erect structures in your settlement. So, every continent has one settlement, which is where the people go that you rescue. It's kinda neat that they all have their own professions that are skillfully named, like a forgician. And by constructing different buildings, you increase the level of these people. And they allow you to do some extra things. It's a great idea on paper, but it just doesn't work all that well. It doesn't help either that you need to find specific survivors to run buildings. Eventually I got to the point where I was sick of seeking out rescue quests that I just killed my character in the hopes that the next randomly generated one would be an aquaurgist, which actually happened. Speaking of that, A Valley Without Wind sports permanent death. Obviously, since I was just talking about killing my guy for fun, the penalty for dying isn't severe at all. You can still keep everything on your dude, but the upgrades are lost and your spirit lingers about as an enemy. And how bad is that? Well, the spirits are complete pushovers, and since you can only upgrade your character 10 times with bare bones augmentations, I don't even consider it a penalty. As you continue your quest, you'll notice a sparse amount of monsters in zones. Well, A Valley Without Wind touts an unusual unlockable system. By completing quests, killing specific amounts of monsters, or even seeking out stashes, you'll unlock various items that implement themselves into the game world. Say you kill a ton of Skelebots. You'll then unlock a Skelebot Centurion. The same thing goes for background art and items, even materials for crafting spells. It's very odd at first, but the system actually kinda works. It's fun to bring up the encyclopedia and to see what you need to do to unlock vases, to get clay, and other types of materials. Speaking of the art, A Valley Without Wind doesn't do anything to help itself. It's not a great looking game. The animations are stiff, and sometimes you can only laugh when you see a magma rhino jumping toward you. It all looks like it's placeholder for something to come in the future, which isn't good. I also noticed an abundance of glitches like finding a giant pink square or these karate kicking robots, which I find amazing. The real problem with The Valley Without Wind is that while you can appreciate its ambition, it doesn't do enough to keep things interesting. Once you destroy your first overlord and go to the second continent, you're unable to bring any spells or items with you, and your settlement is completely bare. You're basically starting over again, and will go through the same exact motions. It's called grinding, and I'm not a fan. Maybe it'd be a bit different if the boss fights were interesting, but with non-existent narrative and samey fights, that drive to continue forward loses steam quick. Even with friends, and the game supports 8 or more people running around the same world. A Valley Without Wind is an interesting idea, and a game that is well deserving of a try. Its seemingly infinite depth is intriguing, but once you get involved you realize how shallow it really is. Arcen Games has a great idea here, and that can become something much, much greater, and I hope to be there when that day comes. It's just not right now.